Good morning, everybody. You're welcome to another program of the Global Center for Leadership and Human Development. This is an open session where we discuss and tap into the ideas and experience of our guests. We hope that this fourth edition is going to be a memorable one for everyone that is joining. We already have our guests in the house, and I think the host is going to continue to bring in people on board while we wait for that. You're welcome, everybody, once again. We humbly welcome our guest, Habib Shukweju. You're rightly welcome.
All right, good morning, everyone. We welcome you to this edition of the podcast of Global Center for Leadership and Human Development Interactive Podcast Series. It is the fourth in the series where we host and tap the experience of iconic figures for the benefit and inspiration of all. Our guest today is a modest individual with a passion for capacity building and technology. Is no other person than a trusted technologist who has developed a lot of interest in building his capacity. And of course, he has also built a lot of wealth of experience on the issues that we're about to discuss about. So join me to welcome to the podcast this morning, our brother and able and capable capacity builder who is learning, who continue to learn to develop himself to be among the best in terms of technology as far as our country is concerned, and of course, as far as the world is concerned. So join me to welcome to this podcast our brother, engineer Habib Shukweju. Good morning.
I need to mention Engineer Habib Shukweju is a software engineer, just like that. The mention is into machine learning and is based in London, United Kingdom. So we are here to hear his bio. We want to listen to his experience, and this is how we start. Good morning, Engineer Habib. You have the floor.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. I think it's an honor to be here. Very much appreciated. I hope my contribution to this call can be very valuable for those currently on the call and those who get to watch at some point in the future. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You're most welcome.
All right, Engineer Habib, it's nice having you on the call this morning. We want you to tell us a brief about yourself, what you do, where and who, and for who. We want to know more about you before we go into the topic of discussion this morning. Good morning.
Okay. As I said, my name is Habib Shukweju. I currently work as a machine learning engineer at the Thomson Reuters Labs. I was an undergraduate for the Federal University of Agriculture, Belter. I studied electrical electronics engineering there. I basically finished sometime last year, so at the end of last year. Then I've been working as a software engineer for quite some time now, right from school, which is why I have happened to gain quite some years of experience in the field just before even getting out of university. What I do as a machine learning engineer, just to have a brief overview of that, is trying to get insights and predictions from existing data. My task specifically regards documents. So just for context, if you have 500,000 documents and say, for example, the government has those documents, the government cannot employ people who would read each of those documents, right? So my task is to build a system that extracts those information. For example, find names of people in these documents, find their employers and things like that. So those are the type of things that machine learning helps to make easier. Basically, that's what I do as a machine learning engineer.
Yeah, Engineer Habib, we also like to hear about your bio. What's your background before you left Nigeria? How was it in school and the likes?
Yes, I said earlier, I studied electrical electronics engineering. Then I was also involved in like community activities in Abeokuta as well. AI Saturdays Abeokuta, and I was the developer students club lead at the school too. I think that's most of the background. I used to live in Lagos because my parents are based in Lagos while I was schooling in Abeokuta. The program was for 5 years, and yeah, I think that's like most of the background. I spent most of my time in school studying computer science stuff aside regular schoolwork, so it was kind of tight managing both, doing school activities and my interests on the side as well. So.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I believe one of the discussions we believe we want to have here is that for you to be on this program, of course, you have a notable CV, which you can go into now. I'm looking at lots of experiences that you already have accumulated. Well, we want to actually have a feel of how your story is. How did you eventually begin to have the concept of being into machine learning? How does it apply to you? How did you get the experience of going into it? Do you have a mentor? Was there somebody that pushed you to it? Do you eventually get into machine learning after you get to the UK, or was it just the Japa syndrome that actually took you out of Nigeria, or was it actually based on work? We really want to have the story that's from your background to where you are now. Please let us walk through your life, please.
Okay. So firstly, I think I got quite an early introduction to the IT space, say from my last year in secondary school. So I had a couple of friends who used to learn HTML and CSS, and we're not very good at it, but we had like an exposure, so we knew what was possible from quite an early stage. Then when I got into the university, I had influences around. For example, I have a cousin who's a software engineer, and my brother is also a systems engineer as well. So I had like sufficient influences around that tilted me to go in that direction. I was looking to study computer science initially, but due to family decisions, I went with engineering instead, mainly because it was thought that engineering would give me like a sufficient base to gain as much broad knowledge as possible to go into different areas I would like to go into in the future. So I started learning to code fully in 2017. And then I've been learning to code ever since then, because I think it's a continuous process. And quite early on, I picked interest in machine learning as well, because I was looking for things to apply the knowledge of code to. Then, because it's the university scenario, you get to meet lots of people, and I got to meet other people who had similar interests as well. So basically, it was like reinforcing our own interests. So when you see someone else doing the same thing as you get inspired to continue doing it, and then they also get inspired. So it keeps reinforcing that way. So in this time, I've been using courses online. So there are lots of courses online. They are called open courses, MOOCs. Then stuff like Coursera, MIT also has courses online. And I've been using most of those. I've also read like various books as well. So I've been able to also work on projects in this time, and gotten to inspire or mentor other people as well who are probably also looking to learn to code, because I've been part of training programs to teach people how to write Python mainly, then also teach machine learning concepts. So for my professional experience aside learning to code, so I think I should make it clear that I was learning to code and doing all this learning for about 2 years before I started working professionally. Then I got an internship as a software engineer. Then because of I had already done all of this learning, say some years before I got the internship, it was quite easy for me to impress at the internship because I was not working as an intern. Basically, I was doing like a full-time engineer's tasks for an intern pay. So I think one key point there is I was over delivering, and that kind of got me to get pay rises and got me to get referrals at that role. And my first internships was in Hotels NG. Hotels NG is a company in Lagos. Then I got another one at Z. Z is also a company in Lagos. So while I was doing all of these internships for companies in Lagos, I was also looking to expand my network using social media and then the online space. So they are like projects online that you can contribute to for international organizations. So I got to contribute to some of those and got opportunities to intern for companies like the Wikimedia Foundation. Basically, the Wikimedia Foundation is the company that owns Wikipedia that we all use. And I got that internship opportunity to work there as a machine learning research intern or a software engineering intern in machine learning, depends on how you call it. Then I got referrals from there as well to where I currently work. So in my final year in the university, I was working as an intern for the company I just left, which is Primer.ai. I had about 2 internships and I was managing this with schools. So basically go to lectures, then come back, get to my work and try to squeeze time in there, make time in there to read for tests and exams and all other school activities as well as final year projects. So at the end of the 2 internship stints with them, I got like a full-time offer. And I was doing all of this work from Abeokuta. Then at the end of the university, they gave me like an offer to move either to the US branch or the UK branch, which I felt the UK branch was like closer home than the US branch, and I felt much more comfortable with that since it's in Europe. So that's one of the main reasons why I chose to move to the United Kingdom instead. And I've been working with the UK engineering division from London since the start of this year. My final day was on Friday, sadly, and I'm resuming with Thomson Reuters labs by the end of this month. So I think that's just like the brief story. So it's not been a story of looking to Japa in the first place. It's been a story of trying to gain this skill and trying to provide value. So I think getting the opportunity to travel abroad was a side effect rather than the actual goal in the first place. The actual goal was to learn the skill and then to provide value and to build projects that I considered interesting. So yeah, I think that's like a brief story of the whole process.
Tell us your core competence and let's advise a young one against Yahoo plus, and so on that people are doing all around. Thank you.
Okay, so I think my core competence is like across like a couple of areas because I was involved in different things. So firstly, my writing abilities, because I used to do a lot of writing as well. So I think that's also served as a good base for many other things because communication is key. So when you're able to like speak to people or write your thoughts down, it kind of gives a lasting impression and then it helps to communicate better with them. Then aside the writing for technical skills, being able to build software engineering, and then there's like a specialization under software engineering, which is like machine learning engineering and working with data. So because it's like a very broad field, I've tried to consciously reject opportunities that do not lie in those areas of interest, because if you take every opportunity that come your way, then you basically go all around without reaching your final goal. Then how did I get to that point? Making use of online resources in terms of books, in terms of tutorials, in terms of networks. Just for a brief example, I've gotten about 3 referrals to jobs, to opportunities, to roles in my career. And by the time I got those referrals, I had not met any of those people before. So I just got those referrals because of the ability to network and then provide value to those people right from the internet. So that's those are what I think the core competencies are. Also, I think something is the urge or the desire to keep learning things, because I personally think if I'm given sufficient time and sufficient resources, that I can basically learn anything. So it's often called a growth mindset. Then companies like Andela always try to enforce that mindset in their employees. I think that's something that everyone should try to have, because in the first place, nothing comes easy. So you have to start from a point where you struggle. It's not going to look easy. They are going to have to learn the basics. While you're learning the basics, it may look like it doesn't make sense. It may look useless. But then you need that patience, the curiosity to keep learning, and then keep learning the blocks gradually and build like as much of the fundamentals as you can. While you are struggling, it may look like you're wasting your time, but then there's a point where you get like a massive increase, because when you learn like 2 things, it gives you the opportunity to learn 4 more things. When you learn those 4 more things, it gives you the opportunity to learn 10 more things. Just think of it as someone who is like a bodybuilder. If you are not able to do 10 push-ups properly, there's no way you're going to do 50 push-ups. But if you keep watching people who are doing 50 push-ups and then you just want to get 50 push-ups without doing 10, like it's not going to work out. So for the part on advising people, I think I've come in contact with like lots of people who are into fraud in my life, because like when I got into the university, I used to work at like a cyber cafe, and then I used to like come in contact with lots of these people, and where I schooled as well, because it's like a university, and then the areas where I lived had lots of people who were quite involved in these activities as well. So the first thing I'd like to say is that peer pressure should not be an excuse in any way for anyone to like get into fraud. Yes, I know that things can be hard, and then everybody's circumstances are very different. So I really can't compare my circumstances to someone else's, but peer pressure should not be used as an excuse. Then everyone should try as much as possible to take advantage of as much help as possible that you can get from people, because I've come across certain people who can actually get help from others, but then because of they feel probably they are too big to be helped by certain people, they get to reject some of that help. Get as much help as you can, save as much as you can in like different places. Then make out time. It's going to be like a necessary sacrifice for you to make out time to learn whatever it is you desire to learn on the side. Probably make out time in the evenings to learn, in the mornings to learn, wherever it is that you think would be best suited for you to improve your skills and capacity. So then also know that fraud is not something that just affects you and the victim. It also has like ripple effects on other people who are also Nigerians and the country at large. Then Nigeria does not currently have a very good standing in the international space for like these reasons as well. So if one person gets to do fraud on one other person, then that person can possibly tell their family members, and it goes on. We've seen different cases where other Nigerians have been rejected opportunities because of the activities of other Nigerians. As you alone and the victim, it's like you, the victim, and many other Nigerians who are possibly going to have or feel the impact of such actions. So it's not just you. Then I think that's mainly it. Just note that the actions will always have consequences, and then even people who get involved in fraud, it's quite hard to get out of it, because now they are like used to the lifestyle of getting stuff they did not properly work hard for. Then it becomes hard to like stop, even though some would be like they would just do it for a while and stop, but it's quite hard to stop such vices. So it's better safe than sorry, as they say, to not even get involved. And the internet provides like lots of opportunities. Although I know that there are different policies at the moment that not make it very easy to work as a freelancer, but then the opportunities are still there. So you can learn whatever skill it is you want to learn, and then work as a freelancer. There are freelance platforms, Upwork, Fiverr. Well, it's not like it's very easy to use those platforms either, but then the opportunities are there. And then there are a lot of people who are taking advantage of those opportunities. Network with people on Twitter, Facebook. You'd find people who are already in like groups, so there would always be like one group or the other of other people who are also working the same path as you. So it's going to be easy when you're able to tap from their own experiences and use those to support whatever it is you're looking to achieve. So that's my thoughts on
that's really great. Before we go to the next question, if you are just joining us, we are on with engineer Habib Shopeju. He's a software engineer and also into machine learning. He's currently based in London, UK. We have gone through his believable story of a nerd from school to the UK, and has also shared his ideas about how to get things done and how to walk through things that you would probably need resilience on to be able to achieve. Really thank you for being on this show, Engineer Habib. Now, moving on. You mentioned about mentoring people, and you mentioned something about courses online that people could do, and how people could make use of the internet. These are areas where, of course, just like you have said, that the internet is so vast that you could do a lot of things, the good, the bad, and the ugly on it. Could you just share a little idea based on your own experience? I get the fact that you mentioned Fiverr and the likes, but how do you think it's best for people to connect and get free courses online? Because we would understand that in Nigeria, we have more people in below the poverty line that are trying to get their head above than people that are already comfortable. So we have students actually who wants to also tap into these courses, but getting a free course that is going to be exhaustive for you.
Okay, so I think there are actually quite a lot of free courses online. YouTube is one, it's always like the first place I would go. There are always often playlists you'd find on YouTube. The courses may not be like properly structured in some cases, but then they're often valuable regardless. So if you go on YouTube, you search for the course you want. You can filter by playlists. You would find playlists or even single videos. You can find single videos that are like very long and they are valuable. So you can use those. Platforms like Coursera as well. Coursera courses are always free, even though you'd see that they would require you to pay, some require you to pay like $50 or something, but you can actually do those courses for free. So if you look up how to audit a course on Coursera, you'd see how you can actually access these courses for free. And then this is like legal. They allow you to do this. The only difference with an audited course is you don't get certificates. But then people tend to like overlook this because you're looking for certificates, but then the issue is like Coursera certificates mean nothing in the first place. Nobody is going to ask you for your Coursera certificates. So if you don't do the course because you're looking for the certificates, then you're losing out on the knowledge in the first place as well. So you can audit courses, take those courses. For platforms like Udemy, where you would often have to pay for the course, there are some times you'd go on Udemy and then you see a course like $100. But most times those courses can be gotten for as little as $10 if you wait long enough. Then if you are able to like join groups, collaborate with other people, you can crowdfund for those courses. I've actually done this with friends in the past. You get an account you'd like to use for the course. Say 5 of you can like contribute to pay for that course, and then you get to use it. I think that's also something that can be done to learn. Then while people are looking for courses, I'm always very skeptical about just taking courses and master classes people get to see online. So you often see people set up individual courses. They'll be like, you say things like how to make money as a writer, while the person who is even making the course has not made money as a writer himself. So courses like that, you see them very well on social media. So I think while you are paying for courses, you should be very conscious. So by default, my default stance is if you don't have to pay for it, then don't pay for it. If you have to pay for it, then you have to be very sure, or make your own research, ask from people, make your own research to be sure that it's actually valuable. Because the moment you are giving out your money for that course, then there has to be like a way to get some returns for it, in the sense that it should either help you get more money or the knowledge should be very valuable to you. So those are like the main ways I think getting resources online works. Then with WhatsApp groups are like very large these days. So if you meet someone, you'd always find someone that's probably on like multiple WhatsApp groups of people who are of similar interests as you as well. So often the case is when you join one of those groups, you often have access like multiple other groups as well. So if you get to that, you definitely find other people are also interested in the things you're interested in. Then you can crowdfund for those courses. Then as I said, okay, I don't know the actual name of the courses, but I know the websites, so I can actually do that. So those are like the main ways. There are probably other platforms as well, similar to Coursera. I think platforms like EDX, it's been a while since I've used EDX while in school. So yeah, I think those platforms like that, yes, that's as Blala mentioned. So these are like some platforms you can
All
use to
right,
learn.
thank you very much. The chat box, I'm sure it's based on what we have. Yeah, so I want to ask this. I need to ask. We have quite a lot of Nigerians youth. Like generally, what is being termed as the Gen Z generation or the impatient generation right now in Nigeria. We have a lot of Nigerian youths that basically have earned their success on traveling out. Now, this is legal, not like they want to do anything illegal. They've been there. We have seen cases of people who have well-paid job right here in Nigeria, but still just have to travel out and to start all over again in either in the UK or the US or Canada. Now you've been there, what is your take? And what is the cost of living? How do people survive living in the UK, particularly based on your own experience? Living in the UK, what is it like? And how is it, how would you advise somebody who is already on a career path and choosing, even if the person wants to move out of Nigeria, should the person actually go about it? Just before you answered that, I was at a conference yesterday, and a senior manager at KPMG was mentioning that is a lady that was working in a job. She was earning quite much. I think she just had to, the moment she got her visa, she just had to leave the whole thing and left Nigeria to start all over again. She wishes her well, but as far as she knows, that the last time she knows, she's still struggling. But what do you think? Where we need to draw the curtain and where we need to actually Japa?
So I think I have different thoughts on this. So I think it's not black and white. So everybody has their own circumstances, and the first disclaimer here would be for it, like, look at yours properly, and then don't let like peer influence be the sole reason for whatever decisions you'd have to make. One of the first things is, before you move, like, probably try to save as much as you can, especially if you don't have support from others. For example, like, I moved here alone, and I really do not have as much support as you'd probably think, because I'm basically all alone. So if you don't have lots of support, I think the first thing is you should save as much as you can. If you are going to be sponsored to make a move, then that works fine. If you are going to be putting in all of your funds into that, then you should probably have done lots of saving, because the moment you move, things can be quite costly. Depends on wherever it is you choose to go to. One of the very first shocks you get is the taxes are quite high. So while you are in Lagos, and then you are probably looking at how much people get to earn for certain jobs, and then you are doing all of the maths in your head, and you are converting back to Naira, and you are feeling fly. By the time you make the move, and then you earn your first pay, and the taxes go as high as, depends on how much you earn, but they can be as high as 30% in some cases,
but
or 40 in some cases.
VAT in the UK is 25-20%,
Yeah,
so 7.5.
Exactly. So, like, by the time most of those bills and taxes go out of it, then you get that it's probably not as much as you thought it was going to be. I think if you have the opportunity to, like, stay in Nigeria for a little bit and save, if you are in the position where you are currently working remotely, then that's probably the best position you can ever be, to be honest, because now you can be earning, like, in dollars and then saving in Naira. I know that there are, like, different restrictions the central bank is putting in place to stifle how much comes into the country and all that stuff, but it's still, like, the best position you can be, and then you can save as much as you can just before moving, because the moment you leave, then your savings are, like, going to suffer a lot. So that's, like, the first thing. For the person who talked about moving, I think different other people are also in that situation as well. They probably also have their own circumstances, and they've probably given it different thoughts. Also, I'd like to say that if you are looking to move, some people already have people in the UK or wherever it is they're moving to, so they have, like, a place to live by default if they're going to be living with them. So that's, like, some kind of support, which is, like, quite good. You can save costs with that. Aside the financial aspects, like, it's a very different environment, so there are, like, multiple ways for you to struggle. You struggle with the food, you struggle with the weather, you struggle with meeting people, because unlike in Nigeria, where everyone is looking out for you in some way, even if we actually don't say it. But everyone is looking out for you in some way. You'd see people, like, ask people questions and have discussions, but the moment you move, you're on your own, like, nobody cares. You've seen cases where someone dies and then they don't even get to know they've died, like, weeks after, because they don't have, like, other people to look after them. So it can be that way sometimes. So there are, like, various ways to struggle, basically, and then the moment you move, it's not a case of it being easier automatically. It's a case of there being more work to be done to get the necessary stability. So I think that if people are, like, use, as the word says, Japa, if people are, like, looking to Japa, by all means possible. The moment they end up Japaing, like, reality sets in very, very quickly, because now it's like a child who is looking to get a toy, and then the child finally gets it, and then you're like, okay, is this the toy? Like, what else? Exactly. So that's exactly how it's going to feel, and then reality sets in. And the thing is, it becomes hard to make other decisions now, because now you have, like, lots of biases. You're thinking, oh, I've spent all of this money to move. What do I do next? I really can't go back. Like, because you made, like, lots of decisions before that point, it becomes hard to make new decisions, because you don't want to lose out on all of the investments you've put in. So I'd like to just mention that it should be thought through properly. There are people who have families as well. And then I think the moment you have a family, it becomes harder to make certain decisions. So if you are probably single and then like, yeah, bachelor is film star, then I think those decisions can probably be easier for you to make. So because you're like very young, you can make mistakes quickly and then revert. But the moment you have a family and then you're much older, your safety margin becomes smaller, and then you have less room to make such mistakes. So I think you should think those things through, as give yourself a safety net as big as you possibly can, because you are definitely going to need it by the time you make like such a life-changing decision. So that's just my thoughts. While the infrastructure is great in Europe, the health system works, the trains work, the internet works and stuff like that, and you can possibly become much more productive. It's not all bed of roses because there's inflation everywhere. So you're definitely going to struggle at some point. So it's not, people should not just have the mentality that the moment they leave, that everything like becomes better. Like the struggle remains. It's the world. So there's no place that's easy in the world. That's just something I'd like to mention as well.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much, Engineer Habib, for that thoughtful insight into the what is happening in the UK, the cost of living, and every other. In case you're just joining us, you are listening to the fourth interactive broadcast organized by Global Center for Leadership and Human Development. I welcome you. Shortly, we shall be entertaining questions from audience after we have series of questions we have here for Engineer Habib. Indeed, it's a very interesting and interactive session. We've had a series of questions and responses from Engineer Habib, right from his bio, his believable stories, and of course, his core competence. And of course, he has given series of advice to people who engage in fraud, Yahoo plus, and others. And of course, he has also talked to us about his experience, the cost of living, social, and work experience. So now I want to ask you, Engineer Habib, though you've talked a bit into it, but I feel you still need to shed more light on it. Japa is trending everywhere in Nigeria. People believe with the level of infrastructure in the country, I just need to move out to be more productive. Whatever the case is, a case has been cited by the lead anchor, Mr. Shafi, and of course, we have seen series of cases. In fact, in my own office, virtually every day, there's no other topic that is trending that Japa people want to go to the Canada, the UK, everywhere. So we want you to share your take on this, and does it really worth it? Even looking at the level of infrastructure, the level of confidence that you see over there, is it not better staying behind in Nigeria despite the decay infrastructure? What's your take? We'd like to hear more from you, Engineer Habib. Thank you.
My take is it depends. Depends on you. And then if it's worth it, yes, I think it's worth it. And it's all based on what opportunities you have existing. For example, no, I would say you shouldn't just move when you don't have like an existing opportunity, or you don't have someone who can possibly help with a lot of things. Otherwise, you're just going to struggle, and then you're probably going to regret lots of things about moving. So that's not the main reason why I said it depends. However, if you have like some of those things in place, then you have this skill, because I really think that if you are moving or you are relocating, it should not be a case of you relocating and then going to learn a skill there, because there are a lot of skills you can learn in Lagos, for example. Say you learn the skill in Lagos for like 20K, and then that same skill, to learn that same skill in London, you probably have to be like £1,000. So like it should not be a case of you looking to move and then coming to learn the skill. You should learn the skill first and then try to bring as much value as possible, if you can, because like the cost of living and then the value placed on things differ greatly. And now it does not mean that the cost that's being taken for like £1,000 is like much more valuable. Like it's probably even worse in some cases, but then like that's just how it is. So have as much skill as you possibly can. If you really want to move, then I'm not going to be the one that would say you should not move, because I think it's worth it, and there's potential for you to get jobs. It's not the case of all the jobs being jobs that pay well. There are some jobs that are like underemployed jobs, because there are cases where you find teachers going on strikes and rail workers going on strikes and things like that. So it's not like the strikes don't exist here as well. There are strikes as well, because the inflation rate is higher than what people earn. So it still exists. It's not like it doesn't exist. That's one of the main reasons why I said the best position you can have yourself is having the safety nets, finance-wise, as much support as you can get, having the skills such that you can have like a very good say when you want to get a job. Because if you don't have as much value to offer, then you really cannot negotiate much. You're at the mercy of whoever it is that wants to give you a job. But then if you have the skill and then you have the value, and most of these things, to be very honest, in the internet age, while it may take some time, it's quite easy for you to establish some of those things right from Lagos or Nigeria, anywhere it is. The infrastructure in Nigeria is definitely not as much as you'd find in Europe. So it may be difficult to access some of those things. But then it's not all black and white. It's like there are many gray areas. So you just look at your own personal situation, see where you currently stand. If it looks like you probably need to like put in a lot of work in 6 months to get as much skill as you can, to probably save as much as you can before you choose to move, then that works. But you should not move without having like a financial safety net in place, or having like your skill set as something to bank on in place. Those are like a couple of the main things. Don't just like jump into the ocean and then see, like it's a common saying that jump in and try to survive or drown. But in this case, if you jump in and you really can't save, you're actually going to drown. Like it's real life. It's not a movie. So so it's not that type of things you like take this kind of risk on, because the consequences are like quite severe if you make like the wrong decision. So I would say that you should look before you leave. Then always try to live below your means, even before you leave, because all of these savings, for example, you can save 500k now in Nigeria, and the moment you move, like that 500k can be gone in like a couple of months. So if you don't have like a skill or something you have planned towards using to like getting income for like first year or two, then I actually think you're going to struggle a lot if you don't put those things in place. There are, on the Japa trend, there are people who have seen trying to like use the students' visa routes to get permanent residents. I really don't know how that works, but I bet it's very stressful. So I personally do not think that it's something like that advice, because I'm going to be paying a lot of money to get permanent residence. And the question is it actually worth it if you are trying to go through like a student visa routes to get permanent visa, when you can actually use that money you have actually given to the UK or the US for school, when it's not like you're interested in the school in the first place. Like you're just interested in permanent visa. So like it does not like balance up, to be very honest. All of that money can be put into like something else that can actually bring in more money and then get you as much comfort as you can, so that if you finally decide to move, then you are going to be moving with a lot of rest and peace of mind. Because if you go through the students route now, then you have to pass exams. You have to find a way to earn money while working. There's still the fear of how do I get secure like my next temporary visa and things like that. And you're not doing this for 1 year, you're probably doing this for like for 5 years or something of that sort.
Yeah.
So I really don't think that pathway is really worth it, especially if it's not a case of you being interested in academics. If you are interested in academics and you actually want to like pursue that part of learning, then you are winning in both ways, right? But if your goal is just to find a place where there is like lights or the train system works, and then because you want to get those, you are putting lots of years and lots of money on the line, then it's not worth it. You can actually use that, invest that money somewhere else while in Nigeria, and then make more money out of that. That's actually easier because now you are in much more comfort. Then you're making money, providing value to the country, such that when you have more, then you can move. You can even get that done in less time than the student route visa if you know your onions. So.
All right, we're moving to the end of this session, but I need to ask, the digital world is like the in now for people that want to expand in their businesses, from health to accountancy to engineering. So it's like everywhere, and everybody needs to key into it. How would you advise people in other professions, not engineers, that they don't really have any background in coding and want to actually probably find a kind of skill set in this digital environment to be able to improve their capacity? Where do you think, how would you advise the person, either in health or anywhere, any other profession?
Okay, I think it's going to be a bit difficult for me to speak on this because like domains are quite different. So what could possibly apply to like a doctor in the health sector would likely not apply to someone in the educational sector. But then what I would think would be the right way to go about this is to learn the tools, because there are definitely like new tools coming up every time. So learn the tools that you can like you come across that can make your work easier. Because most of the times, like it's through those tools that you can get the skill. See what tools have been globally used in your space, because it's by the time you're able to use those tools, and while striving to learn how to use those tools, you get to meet other people, the process, and then you can keep up to speed. So I think that's like the best way to go about it. So you don't necessarily need to learn how to code or build software to tap in. The most important part is leveraging, like improving on your domain knowledge and trying to see how the existing tools can help in your space. That's how it definitely works, except you're actually very interested in going into learning how to build those tools in the first place, because like everybody is building tools these days. So and then there's also the challenge of finally having to choose what to even learn, because there are lots of things to learn. So that's why I said find what the global space is using in your field, get access to those tools, learn how they work, see how they contribute or add value to your space, and then you can also write. I think that's something that anybody can do. Learn how to write about your experiences, write about how you're applying those tools to your space, build your social network. I think LinkedIn is often used for this, although it's being used for all sorts of things these days. But then you can get to share your experiences and thoughts on platforms like that, and immediate value. But in the long run, if you get to do this long enough, learn the tools, share experiences with the tools, try to teach others about the tools. I think it's actually provide value, and that's going to be like one way to tap into the digital space and the IT space to provide value into your domain knowledge.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. Yeah, again, once again, you're on to Global Center for Leadership and Human Development. This is our interactive session. This is the first session of its kind. And we have had Engineer Habib Shukeju with us for the past 1 hour. And we're about going to a close. We have had a great time with him. He's a software engineer and he's also into machine learning. He's currently based in the UK. I would like to call him a nerd from his experience, from the story he has told us. He has been someone who is very adamant about learning and accumulating skills. He's into mentorship, which also I would also want to take you up on. We have students to introduce you to help us mentor. It's a global village. Wherever you are, you can always mentor anyone. So we'll always get back to you on that and how to help us mentor some of the students that are also interested, particularly in coding and in software engineering. Yeah, so it has been a great session. I would invite Mr. Tajuddin Olabanji to have a close for this session, please.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Shafi, for this session, and special thanks to Engineer Bib Shokweju for his time and all what we have said since the inception of this program. So now we'll be moving on to question and answer. Is an interactive session. If you have question among the audience, let's have your hands up, maybe, so that we can call you to have your feedback. Then if you want to send the question on the platform, you are free to do that. So I will read the question out. Then we take response from our guests on this podcast, who is no other person than Engineer Habib Shokweju. So I have someone on the call, Mr. Muhammad Mutiu Bangbade. Okay, can you please unmute your mic, and then let's have your question. Mr. Bangbade, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. I actually wanted to ask about this, that is it true that there is an opportunity for these skills like hair making, fashion designing, and something close to that? Is there an opportunity that, yes, worth that somebody should go over there, or it is rather better that someone stays in Nigeria and starts managing here? Thank you.
All right, thank you for that questions, though that's not the focus of our talk, but Engineer Habib, as a UK-based person, knows what's going on in the UK, and I believe is going to also shed more light on that to guide the audience. So, Engineer Habib, over to you.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have like enough context to answer that question correctly, but then I think there are shops like that, and then there are people who get to do those services as well in the UK. So are there opportunities? Yes. Are there lots of opportunities? I don't know, but then yes, there are opportunities. So it depends on who it is that's looking to have those skills, and then how good they are, how much they can network with already existing people here. Because I think it's one thing to open like a store, and then it's another thing to get people to come to the store. So these are like the certain things that you need to look at before making a move. Or probably also reach out to people who already do these things in the UK or the US or wherever. I think that's going to be the best way to go, because those people who have much more understanding, because they're already in the business, and then they know what the struggles are, and then they know what's the right ways to go about it to be. So are there opportunities? Yes. Are there lots of opportunities? I'm not sure. But I think if you reach out to the right people, then you should probably have better answers than I've given.
All right, thank you very much for that beautiful response. I think we have been another person, Mr. Bilal Salman. Can you please mute your mic and ask your questions?
Okay, my question goes to the guests.
Wait, before you ask your question, are you planning to Japa?
Not yet, actually, that's my question.
Not yet. Okay. Let's have your question. Right.
Yeah. is there or what advice can you give a freelancer that's already in tech about how to seek such visa approval from other companies? Please note this word freelancer. Such person has been working for company on per hour base or per project base, and it's not more of I've worked for 6 months here and 3 months here and that. So is there any way or any advice for such person?
So I think the technician visa is the route I know freelancers often get to go through. But then because it's a freelancer and then you're not like getting to work with one company for a long time, there's no incentive for any company to invest in like all of the visa plans and things like that. So I really don't think that many company would try to bring their freelancer across, except it's a full-time employee. So probably that answers the question well enough. But then there's like the technician visa that I know that people who are already into IT often get to use. The sad part about that is you get to pay for all of those things, and I think it can be quite costly. So you could possibly like get to make that decision based on your own circumstances. But for the the sponsorship visas and stuff like that, it's often for people who are looking to get like full-time employees, full-time engineers or analysts and things like that. I'm not very sure if that works for freelancers.
All right, thank you very much for doing justice to those questions. We have the last question, and that will be from Mr. Taufik Adeniran. Mr. Adeniran, can you please unmute?
Yeah, good afternoon. Well done to the speaker. He has been saying a lot of things in regards traveling out and the opportunities in the UK. But during the course of a discussion, it's like he said something like, it's not advisable for us, I mean, for someone to go to UK through student visa in quest for what is it called, permanent residence. But I've saw some people that have done such and they are doing well. I don't know, maybe you can just suppose, maybe you can explain better, expatiate on that. If I want to go to UK, I want to seek for student visa and in quest for staying in the UK like permanent residence. Is it advisable or is it good, or can I do such? I just want him to explain better on it. Thanks.
Okay, so my answer to that once again is, can it be done? Yes, it can be done. Is it very stressful? Yes, it's stressful. So it's a case of how much stress are you looking to go through just to get like a permanent residence. While you've seen people who have done it, which is definitely possible, you should probably also reach out to them and get their perspective as well to see what they've done to go through that process. Because I think because they're like different courses, it kind of varies. For example, I have like a family who is a nurse, and then she moved. She was working for a bit, then she was studying for a bit as well, and then she's also on that part. So it's not like someone who is probably coming to their masters and things like that. So I think it's kind of varies and it depends. If you've probably seen someone who has done it, the same type of path you're looking to go through, then you should most likely reach out to them and ask, see what their challenges have been. So is it possible? Yes. Is it stressful? Yes, it's definitely stressful than getting a sponsorship, and then it's stressful than doing like a technician visa as well. So I think it depends on what's your threshold for stress and how much stress you can cope with. So I'm not going to really want to say if it's good or not. I'm just going to tell you how much work it would probably involve. So I said you should probably reach out to those who have actually done the same thing you'd like to do as well, get their own perspective, because when you're looking to move, like everybody's giving advice, and then if you listen to advice from everybody, then there's going to be trouble, because I've actually seen people listen to advice from everyone without the actual context or their own context. So that's just what I'd like to say. I think he has another question.
All right. All right, thank you very much, Engineer Habib, for your time. In case you're just joining us, we've been with Engineer Habib on the Global Center for Leadership and Human Development podcast. That is the fourth edition of the podcast. By the grace of God, we shall make the podcast available online for you to listen and listen again. The message has been passed by Engineer Bib, and I think we are all we've learned one lesson or the other. First, the most important thing is you need to build your capacity, work with your passion to drive your vision, and that is what Engineer Bib has done. He has also led us through the experience in the UK. It's not as juicy as some people thought that once I get to the UK, I make some pounds, I make dollars, I send to Nigeria, set up Nigeria. It also has its pros and cons, and you need to be very, very careful. And the Engineer Habib is not advising us against Japa, but he's saying that it depends on you. You need to make sure you build your capacity. You don't just Japa without any knowledge or any capacity that will sustain you where you get over there. So if you must Japa, make sure that you do it well. Have I correct, Engineer Habib? Is that what your advice is based on? Yeah, so yes, if you must Japa, make sure that you plan very well and take care of your sustainability at the other end. So far, we appreciate everyone for being part of this podcast. Join us at another edition that will be announced after this time out. We appreciate you. Thank you, everyone, for being part of us on behalf of the Global Center for Leadership and Human Development and the chief host of this program, Mr. Ibrahim Shafi. I am your co-host, Tajuddin Olabanji. I'm telling you, have a wonderful day, and please take notes. If you must Japa, do it wisely.